What's up, everybody? We're back, Loft Sports Podcast. Brian and Tom, as always, on a Friday night. Tom, what's up, my man?
Friday, and we're about to talk about probably my favorite position to scout, linebackers. So I'm doing great.
Yeah, man, linebacker's a fun position. It's funny as I was getting ready for the show. Actually, I was thinking I was trying to think back some of the best linebackers I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, obviously, it was all like Lawrence Taylor play. I'm too young for that, or like a Mike Singletary or something like that. But I was just thinking about randomly, and I went down like this freaking I went down this rabbit hole, just like looking up past linebackers. Of course, we in our lives, right? Like we see like Ray Lewis and like Brian Urlacher, like guys like that. And I started doing more research, and I'm just like, dude, like I forgot just like how good Patrick Willis was as a linebacker, dude. He was freaking phenomenal how good he was for the 49ers.
Luke Kuechly. Luke Kuechly's like one of the best football players I've ever watched in my
Dude,
life.
Luke Kuechly, yeah, another one.
Barely
Dude.
gets talked about, right? Like if you didn't watch him play, you wouldn't realize how good he was.
Yeah. Like, it's just crazy. Like, and that, it's funny. It's like, I was looking up more about Patrick Willis and I go down like the 49ers rabbit hole and I'm just like, dude, those hardball defenses when he was coaching the 49ers, like when you have Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman and like Justin Smith on the defensive line, like it was just like Alden Smith too, right? He had a couple of good seasons until he ran into his own personal problems, but man, they had just phenomenal defense. Like when Vic Fangio was there coordinating them and everything, I was just like, I was just like going back, like, dude, like 10, what was that, like 10 years ago? Maybe like 15 years ago at this point. Just how good, like, that 49ers defense was. Just crazy, man. How much
Yeah.
talent that those teams had.
They always seem to have a good linebacker, huh? And their defenses always seem to be pretty good. It's funny how that always works. I'm sure we'll talk
Like the
about it in a
team,
minute, but it's funny how that always works.
yeah, dude, it's like just crazy, like how incredible like those teams were.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. Well, before we we'll have a sidebar there about the 49ers, let's tonight we're gonna have episode 7 of our draft series, right? So we'll be focusing on the top linebackers in this draft. So as we've been doing so far, right? We're gonna discuss strengths, weaknesses, maybe do some player comps, and we'll go through which players might fit best on specific teams. So, Tom, as I've been doing the entire time, when going through linebacker film, anything that really stands out to you about this class while you're doing your evaluations?
We're going to talk about 5 guys tonight, or 6, I guess, with Reese, because when I look at my board, I have Reese in multiple places. So we're going to talk about 6 guys today with 2 best of the rest guys. I think all these guys could go on day 2, and I think in some form or fashion, they all start for your NFL team tomorrow. The varying degree of impact they have, will depend on who they are. But what I've learned, and I'll talk about this with other guys, what I've learned about watching linebackers and the transition they make from college to the NFL is when they get really coached up, those guys fix some of the issues I may not like with them in college. And a lot of guys become, really productive NFL linebackers. I think when you look at really good defenses have a good linebacker in it. I think we have 2 or 3 guys that could be, impact guys right away. We'll talk about those guys. Then there are guys you'll get on day 2 that I still think can have an impact on your football team. So, I don't know how deep it is. It feels like every year you talk about linebackers and it's a position that doesn't have value, but it's a position that you want a good player in. And I think you'll get guys that, whether it's day 1 or whether it takes a year or 2, can contribute and be starters on your football team.
Yeah, it's a good point you make. It feels like every team, like a top 5 defense, right, seems to always have like a stud linebacker. Like I just mentioned, I threw about some throwback names like Ray Lewis and Brian Urlacher. Those teams had top 5 defenses. The majority of the time, it was due to just having a stud middle linebacker in the middle, someone who can position everybody around them, call the signals on defense, where everybody's got to line up. Yeah, it just shows, right? I mean, people make a big deal about, right, like off-ball linebacker, how it's not like as important position as maybe like a pass rusher, right, or a shutdown corner. But still, at the end of the day, man, I mean, those are the guys typically that are calling the defense out there on the field. They're acting in that coach role, giving out the signals, giving out the plays to the rest of the group. It's a very, very important position. If you have a really good one, man, you were blessed, and there's a good chance that your defense is going to be really good.
You want to have a really smart linebacker or a really smart safety, and teams that, especially defensively, that are good usually have one or two of those blue chip guys that are controlling everything. And when you have a guy out there and you hear coaches talk about it all the time, that's like an extension of what they want to do on the football field. It just makes a defense flow that much better. So yeah, the value might not be there. I like to think that we're going away from that and that teams are starting to value this position more for whatever reason they don't. Maybe it's because you have guys like Isaiah Simmons go top 10 in the past couple of years and they
Right.
don't pan out. But when you get a really good linebacker who you can put the green dot on, he can get whatever is needed from the defense coordinator and then be able to identify stuff on the football field, get your team organized. I think those teams are significantly better and further ahead than those that don't have it.
All right, let's get into our list right now. You teased them earlier. Let's talk about Arvell Reese, our guy. 6'4", 241 pounds, out of the Ohio State University. Played 2 seasons at Ohio State, right? And in 2025, this past year, 69 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. At the combine, he ran a 4.46 40-yard dash, which tied his teammate Sonny Styles, who we'll talk about a little bit later, for the fastest time amongst linebackers. So he's a big guy, long, athletic frame. He's got 32.5-inch arms, got the pythons going. A lot of projecting here for what he could potentially become as a pass rusher, right? He's mainly a linebacker at the college level at Ohio State. And it's interesting when we talk about this. I guess he made a comment the other day. I don't know who was interviewing him, but he was kind of saying that whenever he rushed the passer, he was kind of just like making it up as he goes.
It looks like that.
Right? I mean, that's what he actually came out and said. So, I mean, I'm just trying to picture like a guy like with his size, his athletic frame actually being coached up to rush the passer, just what he could potentially become. So, right, as we look at him right now, he's projected to be a top 5 pick in this draft. So when we look at Arvell Reese, let's go over what are his strengths, his weaknesses. Is there a current player in the league that you could compare him to? And basically what I just said, right? Can he be coached up to get to the point in which he's one of the top pass rushers in this league?
Yeah, I mean, the dude's an incredible athlete. When we look at his measurements from the combine, what was it, 6'4", 241, you watch this guy run around on the football field, and it's just a guy that size shouldn't be able to move the way he does. I mean, he may be the best pound-for-pound athlete in this draft. He's so fluid for his size. His ability to change directions, cut, get from one side of the field to the next just isn't natural for a player of his size. He has incredible strength for a guy that's 241 pounds, holds up really well against blockers, has a good level of strength, and uses his hands really well for a guy his size. He'll rip defenders and move them. He'll get into blockers, and move them. He has that level of strength. Can be a QB spy if needed. Really disciplined against the run. Holds the edge well. Can struggle to get off blocks at times, but he has the physical ability to get off of them. What you see with him as a rusher is just him using his explosiveness and his strength and his speed. As you mentioned, Finn, and what he said, he's still incredibly raw as a pass rusher, but he has the ability to impact games and become a high-level pass rusher in the NFL. Has all the raw pieces you want from a pass rusher, but as we just talked about, he needs to become more polished, and I think he can be coached up in that. As an off-the-ball linebacker, he shows a lot of the instincts you want. He lined up a lot of the time next to Sonny Styles, so he was never really a Mike. He was more of a strong side linebacker, or never really a weak side, because whenever he wasn't next to Styles, he would line up off the edge, and he reads stuff well. He can play in coverage, but doesn't always look comfortable. But I mean, when we're talking about him, you're talking about using him as a mismatch. And the question will be, where does he fit best? My big concern with him, and we'll talk about his player comp in a minute. Forget it. We'll just talk about the player comp now. The player comp is Micah Parsons. And my fear with him is what teams do with him is what they did to Micah, and again, like I say, it's a fear for me, and a lot of people in the NFL won't care about it. But my fear is that you line him up 700 times on the edge, and he just gets the snot beat out of him because he doesn't have the natural size and build to be a defensive end day in and day out. When you look at Micah Parsons, I'm going to go on a little rant about about this now. His first year, he basically split time at edge and playing as an off the ball linebacker, as a guy, somewhere in that second, third, and able to identify and then go make plays on the ball there. I think that's when Micah Parsons was at his best as a football player. His second, third, fourth year with the Dallas Cowboys, they basically exclusively made him a rusher. His snaps went from split, which I think was like 400 as a stand-up guy and 300 off the edge, to something like 700 snaps off the edge and 100 as an off-the-ball linebacker. I just worry about if you're making Arvell Reese do just that, you worry about how he holds up for as freaky as he is, and he's probably a little bit more powerful than Micah was. Actually, no, not probably. He is more powerful. He shows better strength than Micah did coming out of college. It's just asking a guy who weighs 240 pounds to go up 700 times, however many times it is over the course of a season, 50 times in an NFL game, against a 300-pound lineman every single day. Yeah, we have him in linebackers here because I think where he translates best is doing a little bit of both. And I think you can line him up in against guards and against centers and use him in between A-gaps and stuff like that, while still letting him be an off-the-ball linebacker. But there is a concern that if the Jets take him at 2 or the Cardinals take him at 3, if you line him up to play off the edge, he can be good, and he may be a high-level pass rusher. But when we look at Micah right now, there's a couple of years now with a lot of injuries, and that's my concern for Reese. But he can be an off-the-ball linebacker who can also be an edge guy. But I think where he's going to make his money in the future is being a pass rusher, getting after the quarterback, using that explosiveness. He's so quick around the field. We talk about Sonny Styles' 40 time. Reese is running that same time. It's ridiculous when you watch Arvell Reese move for the size that he has. So yeah, I mean, when I look at him, my NFL comp for him is Micah Parsons. I think he at a minimum he goes top 10. He's probably top 5. I think the smoke with what the Jets are going to do is a little smoke right now. Like I still think Reese goes 2.
So do I.
But this is a guy who, I'm curious to see how he's used in the NFL, his explosiveness, his ability to get off the edge, and the ability for him to, when we talk about him as a pass rusher, like the ability for him to mix up the strength that he has with the explosiveness. Like I just said, like when you look at Micah was strictly the bendiness, explosiveness. Reese may not have the bendiness, but he has the explosiveness and he has power that Micah didn't have. I'm curious to see how teams utilize him with that stuff as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think whichever team does draft him, I think, right, I mean, I agree. You can't just start him on the edge. He has to get there gradually through coaching, through scheming, everything like that. Like, I think you bring up a good point. Right? I mean, if a team's going to draft him and line him up on the edge, and he's going to consistently go up against guys like Trent Williams or Deion Dawkins or something. I mean, he's going to take a beating from these guys. He's not ready yet to be a consistent threat off the edge. So with that being said, yeah, I mean, you mentioned a team like the Jets. The Jets are a team that has needs all over the frickin' defense there. So, they need help at linebacker and they need help at edge. So Arvell Reese, if you bring him in, if you draft him at number 2, you could start him out at linebacker and he can play next to a guy like Demario Davis, and a guy like Jamie Sherwood. I think honestly, if you're drafting him as an off-ball linebacker, I don't see a better running mate than someone like Demario Davis, a vet who's been in the league for like 15 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think he'd fit in real well right there if the Jets draft him at number 2, and then eventually, gradually over time, maybe on third downs or something like that, you can line him up on the edge, or you can send him as part of like a blitz or something like that. But yeah, he's got to be coached up. And then we look at another team fit for me, right? So the Arizona Cardinals, pick number 3, as we mentioned many times on this podcast during this draft series, this is a team that needs help on both sides of the ball, right? And right now, it's interesting with the Cardinals, because originally I was thinking maybe the Cardinals could go for an offensive lineman with
I'm
the
an
third
edge guy
overall
for them.
pick. Francis Mauigoa, right, there was a back concern that just popped up recently. So right now, I don't think there's an offensive lineman worth taking at number 3. So the Cardinals, in this case, if the Jets pass on Arvell Reese, if they say, you know what, we don't think he can develop into the pass rusher that a lot of other teams think he can, we're going to make the safe pick. So if the Jets take David Bailey at 2, I think Arvell Reese could become the pick at number 3 to the Cardinals. Now, again, let's keep moving down the chart here. It's another team fit for me, the Tennessee Titans. Right, the Titans, they're a team that's invested a lot in their He plays more of really like it's like a 4-3, but he likes to have 2 linebackers on the field. And right, he likes to play 2 linebackers, 3 corners. So maybe Arvell Reese could be on first and second downs, one of those linebackers to line up next to Cedric Gray. And then on third downs, maybe he could blitz off the edge, right, to form a pretty good tandem there with Jeffrey Simmons and John Franklin Myers and Jermaine Johnson, who also came over from the Jets in that trade. So those are 3 teams right there. And then I have the Giants here at number 5. The Giants, it's interesting. They have a lot of pass rushers currently on the team. I know there's a lot of talk about Kayvon Thibodeau. What's going to happen with him? It sounds like maybe the Giants are open for business and listening for deals for him. But they also, right, they just drafted Abdul Carter last year, so they already drafted a pass rusher and as a top pick. They still have Brian Burns as well, and even at off-ball linebacker, they have guys like Tremaine Edmonds. They have Micah McFadden, so they have guys there. But I mean, if they wanted to add to that defense, which does need some help, I think they really need to add to the secondary. But Arvell Reese is a guy who could come right in and play off-ball linebacker for in that part of that rotation. So I don't think he's going to last to number 5. I really think he's either going to go 2 to the Jets. I really believe he's going to be a Jet. I'm going to say right now, as a Jets fan, 90% chance he's going to be a Jet. The other 10% chance, I'll put him as a Cardinal right now. I don't see him getting past, the top 3 picks here.
I'll add a couple points to that. One, I think the Jets make a lot of sense because he's not really been a Mike in the Ohio State offense. He can do that and transition that if the Jets even want to do that. The Jets might get him for a year and look at him, and he might be amazing rushing off the edge like Micah was, and it might say we're strictly making him an edge guy, and that'll be a moot point. But if you're drafting him right now to play a little bit off the ball, I don't think he's ready to be a Mike. He never did at Ohio State. He always had Sonny Styles next to him. So I think pairing him with Demario Davis would be great. So that's one point. I think there's a world where he could get to 6 because I think there is a scenario in which teams look at Arvell Reese and go, are we really comfortable with him doing either at a super high level? He's a really, really elite athlete. But he probably wasn't the best linebacker on that team last year, like off-ball linebacker. And as a pass rusher, he's still really raw. So if you like David Bailey, and then let's say the Jets go David Bailey instead of Reese, even though I'm with Finn, I don't agree with that. But let's just say the Jets do it, and then the Cardinals go lineman, who's next? The Titans go Love, and then the Giants go Styles. Let's just say that happens. I think there's a world where if he got to 6, the Dallas Cowboys are calling the Cleveland Browns up and offering whatever to try to get up to 6. I don't see him getting past 6, whether it's Dallas or another team looking to trade up. I think that'd be music to Cleveland's ears. And again, this is like still a really raw prospect. He was good last year, and when you watch him on film, he flies around the film, but he still feels raw in both position groups. So when you're taking him, I do think there has to be a level of patience, but the upside for this guy is through the roof. But again, at the same time, it never felt like he was the best player at whatever position you're going to draft him for on his own football team. You're drafting this guy for what he can become and potentially what he can become as a pass rusher. If he can be what Micah was as a pass rusher and you utilize him maybe a little better than I thought Dallas was, and even then, I have those complaints about the Dallas Cowboys, and the Green Bay Packers still traded for this guy, gave up what they gave up for him, and paid him to be an edge guy, and no Packer fans were upset about it. So there are plenty of people who are happy with him being an edge, Micah being an edge, and if that's what Reese becomes, people will be thrilled. I think he goes to the Jets. If not, I think the Cardinals have a really tough decision making. I think he likely goes 3 to the Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm actually just looking at the Cardinals depth chart right here for linebacker. So they do have Cody Simon as an off-ball linebacker who was a teammate at Ohio State. He was drafted last year as a 4th-round pick. By the way, Jersey City guy, Tom. Went to high school at St. Peter's in Jersey City. Cody Simon. So, I think that would be a good so either way, right? I mean, he should feel comfortable if he goes to the Jets. He can learn from a guy like Demario Davis playing off-ball linebacker, at least at the beginning of his career. And then he's got a former teammate, Cody Simon, who could help him out, too, in Arizona. So I think either way, I think it could work out, for him with either of those spots. And then, if he gets any lower. I mean, I tell you, you bring up a good point. I mean, Cleveland, right? Cleveland really needs a wide receiver. They really need an offensive line. And but again, like you can find those players a little later.
Yeah,
You can trade
we
back and
talked about that.
you can get a haul, especially with a team like Dallas coming up from 12. You can get a haul from Dallas to trade back 6 spots. All right, let's get to the next guy on our list. We're staying at Ohio State, staying in Columbus here. So Arvell Reese's teammate, Sonny Styles, 6'5", 244 pounds. He was a senior this past year at Ohio State, so played all 4 seasons at Ohio State. So in 2023, right, 53 tackles, 2 sacks. In 2024, he doubled that, so 100 tackles and 6 sacks. And then this past year in 2025, 83 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception. He was named a first-team All-American, first-team All-Big Ten, and according to PFF, this is interesting, so his missed tackle rate greatly improved from the previous season. So in 2024, his missed tackle rate was about 18%. And in 2025, it went to 2.2%. So he really became more physical, really became a better tackler. He made that a big improvement there going into last season. So at the combine, right, similar to Arvell Reese, he runs a 4.46 40. He records a 43.5-inch vertical jump. And projections right now for Sonny Styles is looking like he's going to be a top 10 pick. So looking at Styles here, the phenomenal Sonny Styles. What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? Is there a current linebacker you compare him to? And will he develop into one of the top off-ball linebackers in the league?
When we talk about guys, when we're talking about this draft, we're trying to figure out, like, people ask me who's generational in this draft. I don't know if there's anybody generational. I actually hate using that term. I always try to judge players by I think where do I think the top guys in the drafts can fit in the rank order of their position group. And Sonny Styles is a guy that I think can be a top 5, top 3 linebacker in football. He's a former safety. He moves around like a safety. He's an incredibly fluid athlete. He looks fast everywhere on the football field, going to the football, running sideline to sideline. He has everything covered when it comes to the football field. He can cover all areas of the field as a linebacker, incredibly effective in coverage. He has those safety traits that translated with him as a linebacker in man coverage, end zone coverage. He can run with virtually anyone. He can cover anywhere you want a linebacker to cover. I'd be curious to see if you can throw this guy on certain slot wide receivers. Otherwise, when you watch him cover running backs and tight ends in college, it's like unfair. He blankets these guys. They cannot win against him. They can't beat him with quickness. He's as fluid. He's physical when he needs to be physical. He's really good against the run. I'll touch on that in a second. But at a bare minimum, you are getting a guy that is going to be on the field for you 3 downs and in any passing situation can cover any area of space or any player you traditionally need a linebacker to cover. He pursues the ball with great speed, hits the hole with power. When he gets to the ball, he gets to the carrier with full speed. He hits guys with power, reads plays really, really well, and finds the ball or the hole because of that. Once he identifies the play, he gets downfield and he attacks the ball with speed. He'll meet the blockers with power. He uses a combination of his speed and power to get off of blocks. You're going to hear me talk about guys who struggle to get off of blocks, but it's something that when I watch linebackers I like in college, and I use Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker a lot as examples, I thought they really struggled, and DeMarvion Overshown. I really thought those guys struggled to get off of blocks in college, but it's something they don't struggle to do in the NFL. So it's something that when these guys get to the NFL, they transition well enough, or they get coached up well enough that shedding blocks isn't something that becomes an issue. Sonny Styles doesn't really have that issue now. So even if he faces guys in the NFL that are maybe a little bit more powerful or meet him with a little bit more power, it's something that he's going to be able to get coached up to be able to handle that way quicker than some of these other guys. He's just a tough guy to deal with when you're trying to account for him against the run. He can get caught up in junk when pursuing the football, going east to west. It's really one of the only downsides I saw on him. It's something he's going to need to work on. He's a sound tackler. I like to see him get stronger as a tackler. I know there's the stat floating around out there that guys just didn't break tackles or he didn't miss tackles last year at all. But there are times that he'll wrap guys up and doesn't just bring them down clean enough, it's not a lack of technique. Like, to me, it looks like a lack of power. So, or not a lack of power. I don't know if it's strength. Like, he has the ability to do it. And at worst, he just slows guys up that the help comes and they help him finish. And even for with my concerns, he only missed 2 tackles in 2025. Wasn't really effective as a blitzer, but I don't think you're going to use him as a blitzer. Again, remember that Ohio State defense this year. Reese was the guy that went and got the quarterback. Styles did everything else that was needed. He's going to be a top 10 pick. I think he's going to go in the top 5. We're going to talk about team fits in a second, and I'll pass a tidbit that I read today from ESPN Intel. And the NFL comp is Fred Warner. Like, that's, everybody says this guy looks like Fred Warner. And if you pulled NFL teams, I think all 31 of them would take Fred Warner, regardless of what their linebacker room looks like. This is a guy that has an opportunity to come into this league and have an instant impact. He's my number 2 ranked player on my board. I loved watching him. He's probably my favorite player in this draft. And I'm not shocked that when we talk about positional value, teams are kind of throwing that out the window when it comes to Sonny Styles.
Fred Warner, man, that's a hell of a comparison right there. Of course, you actually want to hear a funny, like, Fred Warner, like, Jets reference, by the way? I don't know if the story is out there or not, but so Fred Warner, right? He played for Robert Saleh with the 49ers, right? Saleh was a DC there. So when Saleh came to the Jets, right, the Jets are looking at quarterbacks for the 2021 draft. So they go to the BYU Pro Day, which of course, right, Fred Warner, BYU. So Fred Warner was there, and they're watching Zach Wilson work out. Saleh asked Fred Warner, he said, go up to Zach and give him a hug. We got to see how big he is. So Fred Warner went up, hugged Zach Wilson, and that basically confirmed, like, Zach Wilson's size for the Jets.
Funny.
Off of a hug, the Jets.
That's
you
funny.
can make a joke off of a hug. The Jets made Zach the second overall pick in the draft that year, and of course we know how that went.
Not the best way to go about it.
Not the best way to go about it, Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh. But be that as it may, Robert Saleh is now with the Tennessee Titans, who have the number 4 pick in the draft right here. So when I hear comparisons to Fred Warner, that's Saleh's favorite player right there. And, like, I know we just broke down the Titans a little bit here, how they have Cedric Gray at middle linebacker, who's a very, very good young player. But, Sonny Styles could fit that mold. He could be that second linebacker in Saleh's 5-2-3 base that he likes to run. I think he would fit in really well there in Tennessee. I have the Giants again listed here at pick number 5. We just kind of talked about their inside linebackers. They have Tremaine Edmonds in there. They have Mike McFadden, but I don't think they would really go for Sonny Styles at number 5. However, a team that I could see going with Sonny Styles is maybe at number 7 if he were to drop the Washington Commanders. Right, the Commanders are a team that, right, they haven't re-signed Bobby Wagner. He's still sitting out there in free agency. Sonny Styles could be a day 1 starter for them if he gets drafted there. They did sign Leo on their roster that I would consider is, I know as a main veteran starter on the team. So I think Sonny Styles would fit in right there. But again, we're looking at Sonny Styles. Like you said, I agree. I think he is a top 5 player in this draft. I don't see him really falling to 10. I don't see him really, I guess Washington for me would kind of be the last spot. I think if he's there at number 7, the Commanders, rushing the draft card there and draft him. But yeah, he's a guy I don't think he shouldn't be waiting a long time on draft night. And he could be a team that I think, right? I mean, there's a lot of talk right now. I think it was actually Jordan Schultz. I'm assuming no relation to you, right? Who came out and said,
I wish you'd get all the intel.
There you go. That's right. I think he was the one, right, who came out and said there could be a lot of trades early on. So maybe a team's looking to trade up, get Sonny Styles. Maybe a team like your boys might be looking to come up and maybe make a trade with a team like not with the Giants, but maybe a team like Cleveland if he gets.
I'll trade with anybody that gets me Sonny Styles. I don't care. I'll trade with the Giants. Just get me Sonny Styles. I don't care.
But yeah, that would make a lot of sense if a team's looking to come up and make a deal to trade up and make a deal to try to get Sonny Styles on their team.
And I just want to make this point because I know people are going to hear Fred Warner and they're going to go, well, and I've had people say this, well, Tommy, Fred Warner was taken in the 3rd round, right? Mm-hmm. That's the positional value. If anybody's thinking that, do yourself a favor, go back and look at 2018 redrafts and look at where people would take Fred Warner then. And he's in the top 10 consistently. Mm-hmm. So when you get a linebacker that good, you take them early. Treron Davenport, who's a Titans guy on ESPN, started laying the breadcrumbs out there today, and and I quote, "One wild card to look out for is linebacker Sonny Styles because of the length, speed, and playmaking ability he brings to a defense." Who's the Titans coach now, Finn?
Robert Saleh.
Huh. And Robert Saleh, he likes linebackers, right?
He does.
Huh. Did he have Fred Warner in San Fran at one point?
I believe he did.
He did. So let's just keep an eye on that. I think if he doesn't go 4, which I'm starting to talk myself into him potentially going 4, I think he goes 5 to the Giants. I think the Giants look at him. They need help on defense. He will probably be the top player on his board. And John Harbaugh is going to want a really good linebacker, another coach who traditionally has good linebackers on his football team. So I think he goes top 5. I think if he gets past the top 5, I think teams are calling up Cleveland to potentially trade for him. And you're right. If he gets to Washington at 7, they don't have Bobby Wagner anymore, but they have Dan Quinn. And Dan Quinn is another defensive coach who has had some really good linebackers and likes to build his defense through his linebackers. So I'd expect Styles to go by 7. And again, this is a really, really fun football player that if you're one of those 3 teams I just mentioned, and if you took him and you're disappointed you're getting a linebacker, go watch his highlights. He's awesome.
I tell you, you can make a case in this draft. The top 3 players are a running back, a linebacker, and a safety.
And a safety.
And a safety.
Hey, on my big board, it's safety, linebacker, running back.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This is a weird draft because of it. And if you're a team that needs defensive players and you don't pick in the top 10, you risk missing out because if you had to make your own board, the top half of this draft is probably defensive heavy. So it sucks to pick at 12 when you need defensive help.
Mm-hmm. That's right. All right, let's get to the third guy on our list here. So we've got C.J. Allen now. He's 6'1", 230 pounds, out of the University of Georgia. Spent 3 seasons at Georgia. So in 2025, this past year, recorded 88 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and 4 pass deflections. He was named first team All-SEC, and he was a finalist for the Butkus Award, which is for the best linebacker in the country. So he recorded a 40-yard dash time of 4.55, still very good. I've seen draft projections for him that looks like he could go like mid to late first, maybe into middle of the second round. But for C.J. Allen, what are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? And what's your outlook for him?
Yeah, I actually, I had a nice fun debate about C.J. Allen today and Jacob Rodriguez, who we'll talk about later, because I think those two are kind of 3 and 4, depending on your order on linebackers. C.J. Allen, he reads the play very well, breaks on the ball with good speed. When he reads it cleanly and he can get downhill with speed, he finds the football really well. When it takes him longer to read plays, there's a hesitation and a flat-footedness. He kind of gets caught on his heels. He can struggle to then find the football and get off blockers. It makes it more difficult for him to make plays. He's comfortable in coverage, whether it's man or zone. I actually think he's a really good cover linebacker. I think he's a better cover linebacker than maybe he is a linebacker going and finding the football, making splash plays. He doesn't have high level speed and he isn't the quickest player, but he does look faster than what he plays on film. Especially when he can read the play quickly, diagnose it quickly, and get to the football. And and as mentioned before, when he can get downhill and find a football going north-south, he looks like he has a level of speed and pop to his play that you want your linebacker to have. He shows good strength and power when taking on blockers. It helps him get off of blockers. He does struggle to shed them, something that we're going to talk about with a number of guys now. He needs to improve that block shedding, but if he does, he'll get to the football more efficiently, and he shows the power that I want to see guys have to take them on. There aren't many times he just gets blown off the ball. And when we talk about some of the guys I talked about previously, Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, he looks like he has that level of strength. Now it's just a matter of finding a way to get off that block. He can be used as a blitzer. I think he'll be used more in coverage than he does as a blitzer, but it still is an option. He finishes his tackles. He only had 3 missed tackles last year, 8 in his career. So when he gets around the football, he's an effective tackler. During the combine, this is something I found fascinating. During the combine, it was reported that C.J. Allen called the defense for Georgia this year. So the only time coaches called in stuff for him was situational stuff, like certain down and distance stuff. Other than that, it was CJ Allen calling the defense, making the checks, doing everything for that defense. That speaks to the intelligence of him as a football player. You are not going to have issues with this guy getting information, interpreting it, and passing it along to his defensive players next year, and potentially making the checks and doing what's needed at the line of scrimmage. He will be a green dot from day one. His NFL projection to me is a late first, mid to late first to early second round player. I don't think he'll get past the second round. Any of those guys we talked about in the top 10 who may be looking at a linebacker, if he's there in the first 10 to 15 picks of the second round, one of those teams will snatch him. His NFL comps are Zaire Franklin and Eric Kendricks. I think Eric Kendricks could be a really steady one. Just a really steady linebacker who's consistent across the board in everything you're looking for in a linebacker.
Yeah, CJ Allen, I think that's a great point. I mean, dude, this guy called the Georgia defense last year basically doing his thing, man. I mean, that just shows how great of a communicator he is out there on the field. He's a leader. That's what that tells me. If he's doing that at such a young age, which you rarely ever see something like that at the college level, some guy able to do that on his own, let alone right on a stud defense, as we know Georgia produces on a yearly basis. So the teams I have fit for him, I have him, the earliest I could see him going is maybe to Tampa Bay at 15. So, right, Tampa Bay is a team that just lost Levante David, right? He just retired. And yeah, they did bring in Alex Anzalone as well from Detroit. But after that, there's really not too much there at linebacker. So maybe what they're thinking, Tampa Bay, maybe they're thinking, hey, we can have Alex Anzalone. I think he signed a 2-year deal there with Tampa Bay. He's a guy that can maybe hold the fort for maybe a year or so, and then we bring in CJ Allen right behind him as a guy who can develop. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that CJ Allen's going to be on the bench, but he's a guy who won't be the right away first, Mike right away in that defense, but he can take it over in time from Alex Anzalone, maybe as soon as the 2027 season. So I have Tampa Bay as a good fit there. I had Carolina originally at number 19, but then I remember they signed Devin Lloyd, so that's probably not a position they're looking for at 19. So I have your boys here at number 20. Not much at middle linebacker, Tom. Justin Barron, Shamar James.
Please stop.
Well, you have the Marion Overshown, who I know, but the rest of the guys.
They don't want to play him as a Mike. They don't want to play him as a Mike, so he's not. Yeah.
I think it could make sense at number 20. I don't know about number 12, but I have number 20 as a potential option for you guys here. I had the Eagles at 23. They still have Zach Bond there. I know they have Jihad Campbell, so maybe that might not make a sense now looking back at it. But then I have New England here at 31 as well. They have the only move that they've really made. They have Robert Spillane, who's still there, who I think is just an okay linebacker. I don't think he's really anything special. So maybe CJ Allen could be a guy. Maybe Mike Vrabel sees a guy like that on his defense, and CJ Allen would be like, hey, that could be my future Mike linebacker there. I could put him, again, similar situation to what I said for Tampa Bay, right? You have Alex Anzalone there who can kind of show the rookie the ropes his first year on the NFL. Same situation in New England. Maybe a guy like Robert Spillane. Could be the guy for next year again for New England, but then CJ Allen could really take over calling the shots on defense in his second season. And then on top of it, right, I threw the Super Bowl champs up in here. New England, again, at middle linebacker, they have Ernest Jones, who's a solid player. But again, maybe for long term, CJ Allen could be their Mike middle linebacker. And then, yeah, as we get into the second round, right, you got a team like the Raiders, right, who are picking, I think they're at 36. You got the Cardinals right there at 34. Even the Jets, right? Jets at 33. I mean, they need help all over the defense. So CJ Allen could be in play for them too, as a guy playing next to Demario Davis in that situation.
The Panthers one's very interesting. They did have him in for a 30 visit. I will also say, we're talking about him as a Mike. He can play a weak side linebacker too. Like he doesn't have to come in and be the Mike day one. If you have another linebacker need in your team that when you're playing a nickel, you want your two linebackers to be really steady and you want one of them to be a pretty solid cover guy, CJ Allen can do that role. So I think any team that needs any linebacker help could be looking for this guy, and even teams that maybe even they have their Mike in place, their middle guy that they're really comfortable with, you still take CJ Allen and you'll be content with that. Yeah, I think Dallas is an option at 20. I think they decide between him and Jacob Rodriguez if either one of them are on the board. I wouldn't be shocked if one of those two go to Carolina at 19 and you get two really good linebackers in there. I think the NFL is starting to realize when you have two good linebackers, and it gives you the ability to do other things in the nickel, it helps you a lot, whether that's playing an extra safety on the field in the box, whether you want to play traditional with your three cornerbacks, and then you can have one of your linebackers blitzing. If you can have one really steady linebacker, especially a cover guy in nickel situations, you can do a lot of different things. And I think CJ Allen can be that. He may not come day one and be that. There might be a little bit of issues, but this is a guy in 2 to 3 years. He's going to be a really solid starter for your football team.
All right, let's get to the next guy on our list. I think I'm probably a little higher on this guy than maybe you are.
This guy's all over the place. This guy's all over the place. So yeah, this is fair.
Here we go. So Anthony Hill Jr., 6'2", 238 pounds, out of Texas. He just finished his junior season. So spent all 3 seasons at Texas. In 2024, he had a great season, recorded 113 tackles, 8 sacks, 4 forced fumbles with an interception. And in 2025, a little more of a down year, recorded 70 tackles with 4 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions. He did suffer a hand injury late in the season that caused him to miss some games. So last year, he was a Butkus Award finalist. He was a second-team All-American. He's also a multi-year All-SEC selection in 24 and 25. So he's got a wide range of projections. From what I've seen, could potentially be a late first-round pick, could go to the middle of the second round, maybe later second round. So looking at Anthony Hill Jr., strengths, weaknesses, and what is your outlook for him?
Yeah, this guy's a very interesting prospect to talk about. He had a really impressive combine, and it translates to what you see on film. This guy is a really good athlete. He plays fast. He's deceivingly quick for his size, which I think I have here. I think these are his combine measurements, 6'2", 238. He flies around the football field. He is... Am I here? Okay. Sorry, I thought I cut out for a minute.
I got you. You did, but you're good.
He's smooth with his movements, really good athlete. Can be a man cover guy because of his athleticism. He's comfortable in zone, takes on blockers with power, but does struggle to get off of them. So he shows everything you want to become better as a block shedder, but he's going to need to show that and work on that to become more consistent. When he reads the play cleanly, he gets the football in a snap of the finger. At times, it does take him a bit longer to read the play. It can impact how easily he gets blocked. And he can also guess the wrong hole at times. And he can get sealed off a bit too easily. For a player his strength, I want to see him be more physical taking on blockers. But he's a really efficient tackler, only missed 3 tackles in 2025. He's a high-level athlete who will need to be coached up. But if he can get coached up, it's sky's the limit. This is a guy that, like, when I see him whoever he gets drafted by, I want that defensive coordinator to just simplify the game for him. Just tell Anthony Hill Jr., go get the football. If you can get him to do that and get him to do that consistently, he's going to be a productive guy in the NFL. I have him as a day 2 pick just because I think there is a lot that he needs to improve on. If you're taking him in the first round, I think you're thinking he needs to play and start right away. If you compare him with somebody good, that might work. But otherwise, I do think there's a level of refinement that's needed with him as a linebacker. When I looked at DeMarvion Overshown, although I think he's a better prospect than Overshown was, I see a lot of the same things, and Overshown has progressed past that in the NFL outside of the injury stuff. Now, for as much as my concerns with him, when I Googled this guy's NFL comp, and this is someone like Lance Zierlein, who I love to read and respect. If you don't know about Lance, he does all the evaluating for NFL.com. He has profiles on all those guys. I love reading them. When I Googled Anthony Hill Jr. first to get comps, everybody was saying Bobby Wagner. And I was like, okay, let me look at what Lance Zierlein has to say because I respect Lance a lot. Lance Zierlein's comparison was Bobby Wagner. So there are people that look at this guy and think in time, not year one, there's a Bobby Wagner type player in there. So That's the ceiling for this guy, and a lot of people agree to that. So because of that, could he go day one? Yeah, he might go day one. If in day two you need a linebacker that your coaches are going to coach up and in time with development could become one of the better ones in the NFL, Anthony Hill Jr. may be that guy in the second round.
Wow, Bobby Wagner, talk about future Hall of Fame player. That's quite a comparison from Zerline. Yeah, and I know Lance Zerline. I follow him on X. I know all about his.
I love Lance.
Yeah, he's really good. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
Really good guy to follow on X for you folks. We'll give him a shout out there. But yeah, Anthony Hill Jr., man, I've been looking at team fits for me. I think so this team really says that to me. The Houston Texans, I think, would be a really good spot for him. You have a defensive head coach in D'Amico Ryans there. Defensive coordinator Matt Burke, he's one of the best in the league as well. The Texans right now, they don't have much at middle linebacker. They just traded recently. They received Marte Mapu, I believe his name is, from the Patriots. It was some minor trade that they did with the Patriots recently. They do have Azeez Al-Shahir, who's there at middle linebacker too, but there's really no long-term option here. So the Texans have picked number 28 in the first round. They've picked number 38 in the second round. So either one of those picks could be the Anthony Hill selection there. And maybe in time, right, he could become the leader of that Houston Texans defense playing behind Will Anderson. So another team that I'm looking at too, speaking of, right, I said there was just a trade with the Patriots the Texans made. I have the Patriots here, pick number 31. Similar spot like I said for CJ Allen, a guy who could play in the middle, next to a guy like Robert Spillane, next to a guy like Draymond Jones and Harold Landry on the outside of them. I think that could be a good fit there in New England. Again, I'll list Seattle here as an option as well. The Jets at number 33 or at number 44. They really need a running mate next to Demario Davis. They have Jamie and Sherwood. He signed to a big contract, but he was really a disappointment last year. There's rumors that they might just try to pay the money and get somebody else to take him for like a late round pick. That's some of the rumors I've heard out there. And then I have the Bengals here at pick number 41. I think maybe that could be the latest that he might go. So we'll see though. It sounds like a wide range of options here for Anthony Hill Jr. on where he ends up, but I do like the Texans here potentially as where a good landing spot for him to learn and develop and eventually become the guy in the middle of that defense. You're muted, Tom.
My apologies. Current 30 visits for him. He met with the Vikings, which is interesting. He could be a trade back target for some reason the Vikings trade back. I don't think they have an early second round pick, and I don't think he'll get to wherever they pick in the second round. Maybe he does, but looking at this list of 30 visits, I don't know. I met with the Cowboys who don't have a second round pick. I don't think they take him at 20, but I've read that the Cowboys really like him. The Houston Texans, who you brought up at 28, the Giants, who are picking at 33, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, who he would be a very Pittsburgh pick, depending on where they pick in the second round, or maybe they like him enough that he goes in the first round. His physical profile is off the charts. He's what you want. If you're a team like Houston or Pittsburgh, two teams that traditionally draft well and develop, especially defensive players well, you might be willing to draft that guy a little bit higher than I think. He'll be an interesting name to keep an eye on, especially with, I think right now Reese, Styles are first-round picks. I think Allen's a first-round pick. I think we're about to talk about Jacob Rodriguez, who's in the similar spot of Anthony Hill. Hill might be a guy who sneaks into the first round. If not, he goes day two, probably in the second round.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the second round right now. So Minnesota is picking at 49. So he could fall to 49.
He absolutely could. We are talking about him in the highest upside that he could possibly go. There's a world where the Steelers, we said the Steelers and the Texans who are picking in the second round, get him with their second round pick. He is very split among, when you read what scouts have to say, it's a wide range of what scouts think and how they feel about it.
Yeah, also, right, actually, the Steelers are picking soon after at pick number 53. Another team you could be on the lookout here for 56 is the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? A team that lost Devin Lloyd in free agency to the Panthers. So I'll be curious. Actually, I might have to look at the roster real quick. I don't know who right now is scheduled to be their middle linebacker in Jacksonville. Remember, they're a team that also does not have a first-round pick in this draft. Let's see, who's their middle linebacker right now? Who's starting for them?
I don't even know who this
I don't know who these guys are. Ventrell Miller. Oh, Alucon. I can't even say the guy's name. The guy, he used to play for Atlanta, folks. But yeah, I mean, they don't really have a long-term fit there. Maybe they're a team, if they really like an Anthony Hill, maybe they'll move up a little bit in the draft, to try to get him. They do have, actually, they have multiple picks in the third round, the Jaguars. They have 3 third-round picks and 2 fourth-round picks, so they need a middle linebacker. They could maybe make a move to come up to get a guy like Anthony Hill in the middle of the second round.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's get to the next guy on our list here. You just mentioned Jacob Rodriguez. Oh, Jacob Rodriguez is 6'1", 231 pounds, out of Texas Tech, where he just spent his senior season. So he was originally recruited to play for the University of Virginia back in 2021. He didn't get much playing time at all there. Transferred in 2022 to Texas Tech, where he played 4 seasons. In 2024, he recorded 127 tackles, 5 sacks, 3 fumbles forced. In 2025, recorded 128 tackles, 1 more tackle than the previous year, 1 sack, 7 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions. He won 4 major awards: the Nagurski, the Butkus, the Lombardi, the Bednarik. Projections are that he's looking like a day 2 pick, maybe early second to potentially late second, depending upon the team. So looking at Rodriguez, strengths, weaknesses, and what's your outlook for him?
Funny enough, he was recruited to Virginia to be a quarterback. So
I did see that, yeah.
he's made this transition to linebacker in the last 3 to 4 years. Might be one of the smartest players in the draft. His eyes are always on the backfield. He never gets fooled. Does a great job reading plays and then reacting. Once he reads it, he finds the football. Does a really good job avoiding blocks using his quickness, these little side steps he makes. He has really good balance. Hardly ever gets knocked off of his feet. When he gets caught flat-footed, though, he is blocked too easily, and I think he struggles to get off of blocks, and I think he struggles to show strength in taking blockers on, which is a big concern for me. Really solid tackler. He actively looks to punch the football and dislodge it, and this is something that when you watch Tech, I think they were taught to do. He can be overly aggressive as a tackler, which can lead to missed tackles. Takes some bad angles as well. He had 20 missed tackles in 2025. Now, he's also a highly productive player who's around the football a lot, probably a lot more so than a number of guys we've talked about. So his numbers might be a little inflated because of that, but it's still something he needs to work on and improve on. Looks comfortable in zone coverage, has a really good feel of where to be. Don't know how good he can be in man. Didn't do a lot of it. He is a good athlete. He ran well at the combine. I think he ran better than people thought at the combine and at his pro day. He doesn't look like the best athlete on film, and I'll touch on that in a second. But the combine says differently. So as a man guy, he may look a little bit better. His hands are actually pretty good. He had some good interceptions. He had 4 last season. He had some ones on film where you're like, oh, that's a really impressive play. But I don't know if the lack of athleticism will hurt him. He finds the ball well, but doesn't look like he has a burst to the ball. He's very patient when diagnosing the play and then attacking it. He lets the play come to him, and I just don't know if with the lack of strength he has, if that's going to impact him once he gets blocked in the NFL. Does a good job getting out to when plays are stretched off the edge. So he shows quickness. And again, he ran better at the combine than I think I thought and what people thought, which is why I think his name's starting to creep into the first round. Wasn't really used as a blitzer. I don't think I would use him as a blitzer in the NFL. He can be, but he's going to be your Mike linebacker controlling everything. But even with the concerns that I have, at times, he was the best defender on a loaded Texas Tech defense. We are talking about a Texas Tech defense that could produce 6 guys that are going to be drafted. David Bailey, Romello Heights, Hunter, the defensive tackle. They have guys in the secondary. He's one of the best defenses in football, and there are multiple games that he looks like the best player on the field. He was dominant against Houston. Against BYU the first time, I didn't love his first half. Dominated the second half of that football game. He forced 7 fumbles his senior year. He is all over the film when you watch him. And I gravitate towards guys like that because if you're finding the football and you're making plays, I want you on my football team. His wife is an Army helicopter pilot. So like you have, when these two go to any functions with their children one day, they're going to be the coolest parents in the room, a helicopter pilot and a dad who's playing in the NFL. Like what more can you ask for? I've seen projections. His name is creeping into the first round. I would not be shocked if he's a if he goes between 15 and 32 in the first round, I wouldn't be shocked if he falls out of the first round and goes early second, just because I still think there are concerns about how he handled blocks. Deion Henley's a comparison I saw. Lance Zierlein, again, a guy we like a lot, compared him to Carson Schlesinger from the Browns, who I absolutely loved last year. So if you're getting Carson Schlesinger, who was the rookie of the year, you're going to be thrilled. This guy's a really good football player, and a lot of times I talk about drafting guys and forgetting positional value. My reason and rationale for that is you just want good football players on your team. Jacob Rodriguez is a good football player, and wherever he goes, he's going to be a productive linebacker in the NFL.
Have you ever been on a helicopter? Neither have I. Dude, I heard, like, from people that have been on helicopters, like, it's different from being, like, on an airplane. It's
I'm
like,
good. I don't think I'd want to be. I don't like heights as it is. I don't know if I'd want to be on a helicopter.
dude, I don't think so. Like, I mean, apparently, like, you're kind of just, like, it was, right, as an airplane, you're just going, but as a helicopter, you're kind of, like,
I believe it.
floating in the air. Like, it does sound like kind of, like, freaky.
She was at multiple games, and they would like mic her up and stuff. And I mean, they're probably like the two coolest people you'll ever be. I'm telling you, like, could you imagine going to a back to school night with these two as your parents, or like with these two as the parents of the kid in your class? Like that, they'd be the coolest people anywhere they go. But no helicopters for me, please. I'm good. I'm good on the ground the way God intended us to be.
There you go. So team fits for Jacob Rodriguez. So the earliest that I could potentially see him going is maybe to Buffalo at 26. So Buffalo, they have Terrell Bernard in the middle of their defense, but currently Matt Milano is actually a free agent, and he's a guy who he's had a lot of injuries over the past couple of years, right? I think he tore his tricep, and I think he had like a pec injury too. So he's a guy who's, I don't know if they're going to even bring him back at all, or if he is going to sign at all. He might be a guy who maybe doesn't sign to like one of those late training camp signings. Speaking about Milano here. So maybe Jacob Rodriguez is a guy who could step into the middle of that Buffalo defense, right? Buffalo's going through a change in their defense. They're probably going to run more of like a 3-4. So if he's a guy that can be in the middle of that defense playing next to a Terrell Bernard, I mean, I think that could work out really well. He could potentially be a day one starter in that spot. Outside of Buffalo, you know, I have in the second round for him a team like the Giants, who we spoke about a little bit earlier, in Tampa Bay. I have him at Minnesota here, maybe potentially at pick number 49. So looking at Minnesota right now in the middle of their defense is Blake Cashman. By the way, Blake Cashman, former Jets, like 5th round pick. I'm really surprised that he's a guy who really worked out. He had a lot of injuries when he was in Minnesota, and when I say Minnesota, I mean the Golden Gophers in college, and then when he went to the Jets. But he's carved out a pretty nice career, but maybe Jacob Rodriguez could be the guy who can kind of take over the middle of the Vikings defense there, playing for Brian Flores still as the defensive coordinator. Let's talk about another team here, actually. I have the Atlanta Falcons, who we haven't really talked about during this process with our draft series because they don't have a first-round pick. The Rams have their first-round pick at 13. So they're a team that just lost Caden Ellis to the Saints, who was their middle linebacker. They have Samson Ebukam, who's an okay player. They have guys like J.D. Bertrand, but there's no long-term middle linebacker fix in there. Jeff Ulbrich is their defensive coordinator. He comes from like that Robert Saleh system. So he might want a guy in the middle of his defense who could kind of be like, you know, that potential Mike linebacker in the middle. And Jacob Rodriguez, I think, could be that type of player. Not right away, but, you know, in time. And again, like we just mentioned, the Jaguars here at 56, they need middle linebacker help. I even threw the Bears in here at pick number 57 as well. So I think a wide range here for Jacob Rodriguez, but my favorite fits for him are Buffalo, and I like him either in Tampa Bay, Minnesota, or Atlanta.
So 30 visits, he's met with the Bengals. He's met with the Steelers, which keep an eye on them in the back half of the first round, and he has met with the Bills. I really, this is a guy who's like shot up draft boards. His combine, I think, impressed people because people like me watch him on film and he just doesn't look like the best athlete. And the combine tells us differently. Maybe he's better than what some of us are giving us credit. He ran well enough that I really think he can sneak into the first round. If you get a chance, if you're curious on this guy, listen to what Luke Kuechly, we mentioned Luke Kuechly earlier. Listen to what Luke Kuechly said about him. He spoke about him in the past week, and he spoke very, very highly of Jacob Rodriguez. And when you have a guy that played at the level that Luke Kuechly did, speaking highly about you, it can only help you in where you're going in the draft. So fun player to watch, really fun player to watch. Usually I'd be like, don't watch highlights on guys because I think I think it can be misleading. Like if you want to get into this stuff, and I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything, but what I do is I try to watch full games, try to watch as many snaps as possible, and highlights only highlight the good stuff. But this is a fun guy that, like, if you draft this guy, just pop on his highlights and just watch. He'll probably have a 10-minute comp out there because of how frequently he's involved in plays.
So are you with Rodriguez then, like just in general, are you higher on him than you are like CJ Allen?
I've gone back and forth on these two.
Really?
I
Okay.
finished Rodriguez today. He was the last linebacker I watched. For now, and it might change come draft day, but for now, I have Rodriguez ahead of CJ Allen.
Okay.
I have Rodriguez as my third linebacker. If we're taking Reese out of the equation, he's my linebacker too. I think they're very similar. I do have concerns about Rodriguez getting off the ball, but as I said before, we're getting off the block, excuse me. But as I said before, just when you make the amount of plays that this guy makes on film, it's just hard to deny that he's just really impactful linebacker, just can make plays on the football. Like if I'm trying to make excuses for why I don't think he's going to be a good NFL player, it's as much projecting as it is what I saw on film. I try to base as much of what I see based off of what I see them do on the film in college versus projecting things. And when you watch this guy play in college, he's really, really good.
All right, let's get to the last guy on our list tonight. So Jake Golday, I think I pronounced that right. 6'5", 239 pounds out of Cincinnati, where he just spent his senior season. So here's a guy who was originally recruited to Central Arkansas at the FCS level, and he's originally recruited as a defensive end, spent 2 seasons at that position before being moved to linebacker. And then in 2023 at Central Arkansas playing linebacker, 84 tackles, 4.5 sacks, transfers to Cincinnati, where he spent 2 seasons. And in 2024, he recorded 58 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. In 2025, his best season, 104 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, a forced fumble. He earned first team all Big 12 honors. Still getting used to Cincinnati playing in the Big 12.
Yep.
At the combine, he ran a 4.62 40, had a 39-inch vertical jump. Projections seem to be he's a day 2 pick, so second or third round. So looking at Golday, his strengths, his weaknesses, and what's your outlook for him?
So Jake Golday, at least at Cincinnati, is the only guy of this bunch, I guess outside of Reese, who was not a Mike linebacker. He played a ton of will linebacker at Cincinnati. So he says he's comfortable being a Mike. He thinks that's where he fits best. I agree. I think he can do it. We just haven't seen it yet. He made a play against Kansas where he was at the Mike, where he showed what you want to see. Read the play really well, found the hole, and then makes a play on the football. So he showed flashes of it. I'm sure there are other times I just didn't see it necessarily on film, but he lined up everywhere on the Cincinnati defense. I actually think that's going to benefit him a lot. Played the will linebacker, so he took a majority of the snaps in the slot, but he lined up on the ball. He lined up off the edge. He lined up on the ball as an edge rusher, and then he lined up in the slot a lot as that will linebacker. Shows good power when taking on blockers, finds the ball with speed and power, can get downhill once he diagnoses the play, and he pursues the football well. Despite showing the power you needed, he does struggle to get off blocks, so like a number of these guys would like to see him become a better block shedder. He's a patient linebacker who tries to read the play, then react to it. Like Rodriguez, uses his quickness to kind of avoid blockers instead of getting into them physically and shedding the blocks that way. Very comfortable in coverage. Played a lot of zone in Cincinnati. Looks athletic enough to play man. Did a little bit of it, and was used a lot as a QB spy. So it speaks to the athleticism that Cincinnati felt he has. Has a little dip to him as a pass rusher. Being a former pass rusher, that makes sense. Something that I'm curious if NFL teams draft him and think, all right, well, on blitzing downs, we can line him up, overload an edge, and let him kind of get at a tackle, let him dip and use his flexibility to get past guys. Doesn't look like a super high-level athlete. He looks quicker going north to south than he does east-west. Isn't going to light you up with speed and isn't necessarily going to make the splash plays all the time that you're looking for. Needs to become a better block shedder. He relies too much on his strength. Needs to use his hands a little bit. I have him projected as a day 2 pick, somewhere in that second to third round. My NFL comparisons are Malik Harrison or Drew Sanders, who is on the Broncos. Maybe he can be a Mike for you, but at worst, he can be a will linebacker who, depending on how you want to use your linebacker on nickel situations, can be a guy that can be a cover guy guy for you, which is becoming more and more valuable in today's NFL.
Yeah, some team fits for him for me. I have him as early as maybe the Giants at 37. But another team we just spoke about, right? The Minnesota Vikings at pick number 49. So he was scheduled for a top 30 visit. So it sounds like Brian Flores, from what I've seen, has been a pretty big fan of him. So they hold pick 49 right in front of them. Like we said, Atlanta at pick number 48, team that really needs something in the middle of their defense. And then, again, Jacksonville at pick 56. So maybe his sweet spot could be right there, maybe in the late 40s to early 50s. And again, right behind them, the Chicago Bears, who apparently it's not confirmed yet, but the Bears have been doing extensive, I'll put this in air quotes, pre-draft homework on Golday. So, I guess might be some concerns, right? Where they just signed Devin Bush, right, who had a big year for the Browns, and then they have TJ Edwards there too. But I guess right, he's the kind of guy who's had some injuries in the past, so maybe they're looking for a guy like Golday as the long-term option to fit there, with Devin Bush as his running mate.
I think he makes a load of sense going to a team that already has an established middle linebacker there. So, I mean, he met with the Vikings, which would make a ton of sense. Like, Flores would love to have him. He met with the Bengals. He met with the Rams. He met with the Cardinals as well and the Titans. So he has a nice list. This guy might go quick sooner than people think because he's not of the mold of all these other guys. If you have your middle linebacker and you're really comfortable with him and you want a guy who can just be a steady cover guy, good athlete, can spy a quarterback if you need him to, then yeah, you take this guy and you're going to get your value in him. He can do that stuff right now in the NFL. So yeah, a lot of these, I think I see third round a lot with this guy. I would not be shocked if he goes somewhere in the second round. And if he goes before an Anthony Hill Jr., it wouldn't shock me strictly because his skill set is different than a lot of these other guys. And there are going to be teams that go, we have our middle linebacker. Let's get a guy who can play next to him, who can do everything that we don't want our middle linebacker to do. So don't be shocked. This was a fun kid to watch. Really, of all linebackers, the only one that I really had no feel of. I did not watch a lot of Cincinnati this year. And watching him, I was like, this is going to be a guy that contributes in the NFL, has a really steady career.
All right, let's wrap with our best of the rest. So, Tom, out of any other linebackers that we didn't mention tonight, anybody else you want to give a shout out to that stood out to you?
Two guys that I think will be day 2 picks. One is Josiah Trotter from Missouri, 6'1", 234, really good athlete who gets to the football. Way more comfortable against the run versus the pass. But if he can develop those cover skills, we're talking about a guy who could be a really consistent Mike linebacker in the NFL. His dad is Jeremiah Trotter, his brother Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He's, no offense to his brother, the better of the prospects between him and his brother. So there's going to be some developmental woes with this guy. If you get him in the third round and you're starting him day 1, there might be some bumps in the road. But if he can get coached up and develop, this is a guy who can be a starting Mike linebacker in the NFL. And you're looking to get him in the third round on day 2. You'll sign up for that. The other one is Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh. Okay. He's 5'11", 220. He's a New Jersey kid. All right. He has the build of a safety. All right. But played linebacker at Pitt. He's going to struggle to be a really every down middle linebacker or strong side linebacker in the NFL. He might struggle to be a weak side linebacker because he really struggles with getting off of blocks. But this is a kid. You want to watch a highlight reel. Watch Kyle Lewis just play football, and he makes plays all over the field. He's comfortable in coverage. He's comfortable as a blitzer. This is going to be a guy who needs the right fit. All right. But he's so fluid in his movement. He's so fluid getting around the football field. Like, I look at him and go, a team like Seattle is probably looking at this kid and going, please get to us in the late second, early, wherever we pick in the third round, wherever we pick in the second round. We'll take this guy higher than anybody else probably does because we're going to have a defined role for this guy. With the way the NFL is going, there are teams that when they line up in the nickel, they don't play 2 linebackers. They'll play 3 safeties. And this is a guy that maybe is your safety. His cover skills aren't great. So that's the issue. They're good, not great. So I just want to throw him out there because he's going to be a guy that when he gets drafted, a lot of people are like, watch his film. He's awesome to watch. We just don't know where he fits. But I think both those guys go on day 2. And Trotter, I think if he can develop, is a starting middle linebacker. And Lewis, if you can find a defined role for him, he's a guy that is going to make plays for your football team and pop out in games way more than people might expect.
Oh yeah, Kyle Lewis. Yeah, East Orange kid, huh? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
remember him at Pittsburgh. Yeah, he was really good. I remember he was like their best player on their
Really
defense.
fun football player to watch.
Mhm. All right, folks. Thanks for hanging in the loft with us. Official Loft Sports Podcast can be found wherever you consume your podcasts. Check out our website, loftsportsusa.com. We continue to add scouting reports for the draft. Please check out our articles, rate and review our articles that are on the website. Let us know how we're doing. Feedback's very important to us. Our NFL draft series is going to continue on Tuesday when we break down the top cornerbacks in the draft. So we got cornerbacks next Tuesday. Next Friday, we'll do safeties, and then the week after is our mock draft. We're going to do another mock draft, which is going to be the first one we've done since we did one prior to free agency. So this mock draft might be it's probably going to look a lot different than the one we did previously. I'm going to have to go back and look at that, Tom, to see some of the picks we made on that show. It's probably going to be a lot different, I think.
I've been doing a lot of mocks, so I got a lot of things going around in this head now. I paid for PFF for a month so I can do the trades. I've been cooking up mock drafts. It feels like every day. So I'm looking forward to this mock draft.
Isn't it
the
fun?
draft will be here.
Isn't it fun when your favorite team has like 2 first-round picks? You just do them like the Jets, Cowboys. They both do it. I've been doing them all the time myself.
I'm trading back and getting more picks, and I'm picking
Dude,
8, 9 times. Let's go. Let's ride, baby. The draft will be here before we know it.
I got to share some of the ones I did for the Jet. I don't have them saved, but dude, some of
I have a couple saved.
The amount of picks I've loaded up with just for the 2027 draft, it's crazy and shit. I've been posting a couple. So folks, I have been posting a couple of YouTube videos for some of the teams. I did one for the Jets. I did one for the Browns where I did mock drafts. I'm probably going to do a couple more coming up. I want to do one for the Cowboys, actually. I'm going to do one for the Chiefs. They're probably the next one I'm going to do. They have pick 9 and pick 29, another team that needs some work here. They're not ready to compete for a Super Bowl just yet again. But I'm going to see if I can work on them, build up their roster a little bit. Outside of that, though, outside of our draft series, right, we got a couple more bonus episodes coming your way. We got the NBA playoffs coming up. We got the NHL playoffs coming up. We got WrestleMania coming up. We're going to do a WrestleMania preview next week. I got one of my buddies who's going to be joining me and Tom to break all that down. So follow Loft Sports on X, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Follow us on all 5 social platforms. We are under Loft Sports USA. Please rate and review our podcast on whichever platform you listen to your podcasts. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll talk to you soon.